1860, the southern states were very angry, and one by one, states began to secede from the Union. The Union Army feared that the Confederate Army would gain control of the South. So in December 1860, the Union Army, under the command of Major Robert Anderson, took control of Fort Sumter in Charleston Harbor in South Carolina. The people in Charleston were angry that the Union soldiers had taken the fort. They considered it a violation of their rights. The next day, Confederate forces took control of 3 nearby forts. They wanted to remove the Union soldiers from Southern soil. The Union held control of Fort Sumter for almost 4 months. President Lincoln ordered that supplies be sent to the soldiers. The Confederate Army sent messengers to speak with Major Anderson. They wanted him to surrender, but Anderson would not give up. On April 12, 1861, Confederates began firing upon Fort Sumter. The Civil War had officially begun. The attack lasted 34 hours. The Union soldiers fired back, but they were forced to surrender. But surprisingly, not one soldier on either side was killed in battle.
Civil War battles soon raged all over the state, and the cities of Port Gibson, Jackson, and Vicksburg became key battlegrounds in what's known as campaign. By 1863, Confederate forces at Vicksburg were still in control of the lower Mississippi River, which is President Lincoln told his advisors, Vicksburg is the key. The war can never be brought to a close until that key is in our pocket. On April 30th, General Ulysses Grant and his Army of the Tennessee crossed the river from Louisiana and began the invasion of Mississippi. When Grant finally reached the city, he ordered a series of immediate attacks. But his forces were repulsed, suffering heavy losses. Grant decided that cutting off supplies and laying siege to the city was the best hope for victory. Day and night, Union shelled Vicksburg. Southern troops fought bravely. Their efforts could not replenish dwindling supplies of food and water. After 47 days, with Vicksburg's defenders facing starvation, Confederate General John C. Pemberton surrendered to Ulysses Grant. Here, indeed, the entire Mississippi River, from Cairo, Illinois to the Gulf of Mexico, was now under Union control. Back on July 2nd, 1863, members of this same regiment, made up of volunteer farmers and mill workers, arrived in Gettysburg. It was to be Robert E. Lee, stationed in Virginia, had decided it was time for the North to feel some of that pain. So in late June, to the east, Union forces, acting as a buffer between the Confederates and the U.S. Capitol in Washington, D.C., were hot on their heels. Finally, on July 1st, Lee's units began to converge on the Federal forces in the town of Gettysburg. The battle that followed raged for 3 days. The Union Army was too powerful for the Confederates. On July 4th, Independence Day, Lee and his rebels retreated back into Virginia. The tide of the war had been turned in the Union's favor for good. The South would never again threaten the North.